Oh, hey guys, Marta here. I didn't see you there. No, I'm just kidding. But today's video, I'm just going to talk a bit about a few things. So, first of all, is where I've been. Not uploading the YouTube videos. I took about 10 days off of streaming leading up to this league as well. I'll just talk a little bit about that. Talk about the league start of Incursion. Talk about how all that stuff went. How I was building my atlas. What I'm doing with the temple building. The incursions, loot, how MF seems to feel in this, all the MF stuff, all that. Um, just what my character's been. It's just generally going to be a lead start summary, all that kind of good stuff for you guys. So I'll try and put some timestamps in the video when I wake up tomorrow. But yeah, so first of all, where I've been, after my death last league, I thought about re-rolling and streaming some of that stuff, but I really was just so hyped for Incursion that I didn't feel too much like playing. So I took a little bit of a chill time, and I like spent a bunch of time outside, spent some time with my family, and just kind of freshened up, watched a lot of streams, and just chilled out, hung out. I am human, even though I stream a ridiculous amount sometimes. I do a bit of that, so just kind of refreshed myself, and now I've been streaming a lot more now that the league has begun. So about Incursion. For my league start, I played a Rain of Arrows character, as those of you who watched my stream would know. I wanted to test it out as and feel how it felt, or how starting as a bow character would feel. Like I've always league started as like a push for my characters, like I don't know, just trying to go for 100 as fast as possible for me, and usually not being successful, but at least to try for that. In this league, I wanted to try something different. I wanted to try doing Magic Find as a lead strategy start to try and get as rich as possible. And so right now, my stash is pretty empty. I'm pretty broke, but it's because it's all in items. And I'll talk a little bit about that too in a bit. But yeah, so that was my strategy start this time, and I chose Rain of Arrows as my ability to utilize this, I guess. And I just wanted to see how it felt. I felt like if it was terrible, I would fall back on Lightning Arrow. And then transition into Tornado Shot like I wanted to do. And so Rain of Arrows, it had its ups and downs. I felt like I didn't scale it the best way possible. The way I scaled the Rain of Arrows initially was I have this thing where I really like converting Fizz damage into LE damage for lead starters when I play with like an Aura person. I don't know why I like doing that so much. It doesn't really seem to work for me very well, but I like doing it every time to try it out. So that's how I initially started with Rain of Arrows, and it actually was pretty good. I got a Death's Harp right around level 33. Someone who was level 29 found it in a temple, so I bought the Death's Harp off of him for like 2C, and that made leveling pretty easy. We were able to upgrade it to Death's Opus by like level 52 or 55 or something like that. And everything went okay with that, but it really felt like it started to fall off around like Blood Aqueduct. So I switched over to Lightning Arrow in Blood Aqueducts, especially because at that point I was able to get like the Pierce nodes because I had kind of like neglected taking them in favor of taking the Winter Spirit. My initial plan had been to go Blast Rain and Lightning Arrow, and I think that would have been a much better start. And for early maps, I actually had switched over to that, Blast Rain Lightning Arrow, and it felt okay. But yeah, so the Fizz conversion in Rain of Arrows felt really bad. I feel like if I were to play Rain of Arrows again as a lead start, I would probably just go full Fizz, maybe, like take like things like Heavy Draw and Deadly Draw, and like just try and really scale up the Fizz with non-crit early on, and then go crit pretty late. Because it did not feel well, or feel good early on. But yeah, so that character was doing all right. I wanted to go back and try Rain of Arrows again. So, like, what we wanted was my Merc Lab, which was going to be endless munitions for the 50 AoE. Because Lightning Arrow was kind of feeling like, it was good, but not quite as good as it could have been. And we were like, maybe Rain of Arrows would be better with the AoE. So then this happened. This was my first rip of the league. I would play the sound, but there's copyright music in it, and I don't want the video to be muted. So let me move myself over here. I'll just be the silent observer in the mana bar, or in the mana pot. mana sphere. I forget what they're called. We were way behind in progression at this point. Like the bow stuff did not work out that well, but we were kind of like just banking on MF. Like I said, we were doing MF. I was wearing like pretty much MF gear, but I wanted to buy some res boots before we did this, but we kind of just decided to do it without that. I was not fire res capped, and I thought like I was fire res capped with MNTC there, but without him there, I wasn't fire res capped, and we were like talking about it before, and we're like, oh yeah, Zaro doesn't do fire damage, it'll be fine. Well, it turns out that Izaro does do fire damage, and we completely forgot about this ability. So the plan was to just taunt Izaro away, and then far shot him with TS and like shotgun him down. And you can see I'm actually doing okay damage. That's like 2 tornado shots on him. But then like one hit does like 2k to me, and then I just instantly get deleted. So obviously I could have played better. I could have like tried to blink arrow out of that, but we didn't even realize that that was going to be fire damage. Or that would come, and it was just kind of, it wasn't really what we were expecting. Obviously we should have expected it, but whatever. So we had also switched to TS at this point just to see if it felt better than lightning arrow or rain of arrows, because we were going to take the proj node, and then so worst case I go back to rain of arrows, best case I stay tornado shot was kind of what we were thinking. So that happened, and that really sucked. But I re-rolled, and I tried a different method of scaling Rain of Arrows this time around. So this time around, like, we knew we wanted to go Wind Ripper. So I chose to scale my Rain of Arrows with Ellie damage. I bought a Storm Cloud, and I leveled with that. We bought a Tempest in early maps for like 10 or 15 C. And then I just used that until I could get a Wind Ripper. And this time it went really well. I bought 2 Inspireds as fast as we possibly could, too. That was, like, one of the first investments. We were rocking, like, Sedimas, Goldworms, like a Tabula, and, like, some damage rings. I had, like, a really good Wed belt that I don't have anymore, but it was, like, Tri-Res, Wed, and, like, 110 life, like a leather belt. So it was a pretty solid belt. And then had, like, a damage amulet, rocking the Starkanias the entire lead so far. I was using Hiri's Demise. Hiri's Demise is a really good quiver for early on as a bow character, if you're going Ellie. So yeah, I was rocking all that. The damage was okay. I've actually got a clip of, this is the character when we were starting to progress through maps. You can see we're in Ashenwood, just kind of like barely breaking into T6s. We hadn't quite gotten our Elder out yet, and this is, oh hey, shoot, I gotta mute it just so the video doesn't get muted. Okay, so yeah, we're just doing like a random little Ashenwood. This is what the Rain of Arrows clear looked like. Oh, and this is Automaton Herald of Ice. It's from the new mystery boxes, and I fucking love it. It's amazing. But yeah, so you can see just kind of like run through, shoot these Rain of Arrows. It actually was feeling really good at this point. You can see like we're clearing the whole stream. My AoE is insane. It's like sometimes it's hitting almost both edges. Like see the arrows over here. See that's like the explosions to the left, and then there's explosions over here. So the AoE is great. But the biggest issue with this was the single target, and like rares were just not dying, at least not fast. You can see that rare like right here, it didn't die, even though I shot a bunch of Rain of Arrows in its general vicinity. And you can't actually aim Rain of Arrows as far as I'm aware. It makes a circle, and half of the arrows will be targeted, but not always. So like on average, I'd say 3 to 5 arrows were hitting the single target, which is okay, but like the damage just didn't feel good despite that, even with a 6-link Rain of Arrows. Like you can see I'm not using Mirage Archer. A big part of that was to get more damage on the Vol Rain of Arrows, which the Vol Rain of Arrows felt great, but yeah. We did that. I stayed Rain of Arrows until I could get Ridwald's Quills and Uberlab. It took us a really long time to get Uberlab because both MNTC and I forgot to click on a trial when we were doing them. I forgot to click on, I forget what it is, the like middle one on the right, and MNTC forgot to click on the Piercing Truth one. Or no, he had to log out because he's like hybrid kind of, and he can't really use a Life Flask. Or he can't rely on a Life Flask while going through lab traps, so he just had to log out because we didn't have flask charges up. And so he couldn't get the trial because we didn't have ports, because we had ported out twice on the map to trade people. So it took us so long to get Uberlab, but as soon as we had Uberlab and Rigwald Squills, which was like a little bit into our map farming, like actual shape map farming, that's when I switched over to TS. And even without the helmet enchant or dying sun, the difference was immense. Like it felt so much better than playing Rain of Arrows at that point. Rain of Arrows clear was comparable. The boss kill was like way slower because I was also using 5-link Vol Rain of Arrows on the boss at this point. So what I would do is I'd Vol Rain the boss twice and I'd just sit there TSing it from far away, and it actually killed bosses really fast. I'm not doing that anymore. I could still do it, but I just don't feel like it's necessary now. We've got like really good gear and stuff. And now I can just use my bow to level up supports and stuff. I'm going for like 2120s on my gear. But yeah, so that's kind of like the way we transitioned. And at that point, we were rocking like 2 pretty bad Ventors, just a pretty bad Spine Fuse. Actually, I think I had a Damage Amulet at that point. You know, Goldworm Sedemas, and the like life slash wed slash huge res belt. And yeah, and then at that point, the clears started to get a lot better. We got a lot faster, and now we're making really good money every single day. My gear is getting pretty crazy at this point, but yeah, so I want to show you an example of this. Is like an incursion. I didn't clip this, just someone in my stream happened to clip this loot. This isn't even the best loot we would get, but this is just like before we even had full quant gear. Just, oh no, this is with good quant gear because I can see I'm already TS, but this was like early. This is not the best incursion, but this is like an average incursion with MF gear. And this is with a pretty good filter. Look at all this loot on the ground. Like, if you accidentally pick something up and you want to have to drop it, you can't even drop it in this area because too much loot is on the ground. So it's like 5 unique, 6, 7 uniques because I picked up the Tabula, 6 socket, a bunch of currency, bunch of rares. It felt amazing. And this is, we're volleying our maps, so you know, we get these 40 pack size maps sometimes. We've had as many as like 13 to 20 uniques pop out of like crazy incursions with like beyond in like a 48 pack size map. It's pretty uncommon that that happens, but like now that I've got crazy Ventors, which I'll just show you guys in a minute, we're like minimum 3 to 5 uniques per incursion at this point, and like upwards of 12 to 15 crazy ones are 20, like I said. So it's really good loot. This league is amazing for the loot. So anyways, next up, Atlas progression and strategy. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So the way we did our Atlas strategy, we knew we were wanting to do MF from the beginning, so that what we wanted to do was run quantity gear as early as possible and sacrifice Atlas progression to do so. And the way we did this was we kind of just stayed in low tiers as long as possible. Like until we were getting gear upgrades, we were just doing T1s and 2s and kind of saving all of our T3s. And then we slowly just progressed through the early white tiers like that until we were like around tier 5 and we had like okay gear. Like I wanted to have like 4K plus life to go while wearing Sedemas and Goldworms. We got to that point, pushed through the maps, we got our yellows done. So the way you unlock Shaper, and this is important for Elder Orbs. I'm going to do an Atlas video still. It's on the way. But the way I went through the Atlas is you need to do 5 Shaper maps in order to get your Elder Orbs. So you have to do a Tier 1 map with a Shaper influence, Tier 2 with Shaper influence, 3 with a Shaper influence, 4 with Shaper influence, and 5 with Shaper influence. Now you don't need to do specifically those. So let's say I haven't unlocked Elder yet. If I run Cells with Shaper Influence, that will count as doing the Tier 1 map with Shaper Influence, similar to when you do Elder maps for the Elder Orbs. So then I would need to do a Tier 2. So if I run Cells and it's Shaper again, it'll complete the Tier 2. If I run Cells and it's Shaper again, it'll complete the Tier 3. And then if I run Cells with its Shaper again, it will not progress. I need to then do a Tier 4 or higher, so, you know, run like Grotto with Shaper, and then run Channel with Shaper. It doesn't really matter. The maps aren't the specific map isn't important. It's just that you need to run 5 Shaper maps. Then you run a Shaper map on Tier 6 or Tier 6, and it'll give you your first Shaper Orb, and it'll unlock Elder. So when we did that, we got our first Shaper Orb. We spawned Elder over near Fields up here, unintentionally, I think. I can't remember why we did it there. I think we just had a bunch of shields or fields. Sorry. So the strat then was to run our fields, or stack up a bunch of fields, so we could 3-to-1 them into residence. Because since Elder spawned here, when we run the fields with Shaper Influence, you know, Elder takes over residence. So then we run a residence with Elder Influence, and that gives us our tier 2 orb. And our Atlas strategy being to run like burial chambers initially, all we needed was our tier 3 orb and we're good to go. So then we kept no tier 6s on our map or tier 7s at this point except for fields and residents, and we just ran tier 5s and tier 4s to let Elder expand in this area to residents and courtyard and like let him push out. And so, you know, that kind of like we're stacking up these maps, and then when he finally takes over courtyard, we just run it with Shaper Influence, get Elder in there. Then we run it with Elder Influence, get our orb. Shape burial chambers. While we were doing this, we also had the backup strategy of we shaped desert into tier 7. So we did 3-to-1 3 deserts into Iceberg if Elder were to take over Iceberg. So it's kind of just double dipping our potential options to get our orbs. Nothing too advanced, but that's just the general idea behind it, and that's what we did. It worked out great. We were able to get all of our orbs this way. And then our final strategy, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to buy an Underground Sea tomorrow. Actually, I didn't realize I have Elder on here. But so now I can buy a Shaped Underground Sea from someone, and I can get my tier 11 orb from that, which I don't currently have. I have my tier 5. Because Elder's on here, even though I don't have this as a tier 11, it works. You can no longer use a friend's Atlas to get Elder Orb, so this is the way you're best off doing it. And then after that, what I'll do is I'll get it like an underground river with Elder on tier 11, or sorry, a shaped underground river with when we have Elder on it. We'll run that, get my tier 12 orb, and I'll do that for all the initial 10 orbs. Then at some point, I'll make sure I spawn a red Elder, and then I'll get my last 5 orbs, and I'll have my T16 orb that way. But anyways, like I said, more depth on this in my Atlas video. That's to come in probably within 2 or 3 days. I am trying to prioritize the stream, but I will make sure I get these videos going. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, hang on, let me take a sip of water. This video is pretty long. And I just streamed today. But yeah, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is how I'm building my temple. The priority rooms, and I've got a little bit of temple footage that I'll show you guys. So you can see these are the rooms, right? If you guys, I'll put this linked in my video. I guess I should also probably put all of these clips in my video as well. Let me pause these. I'll put them in the descriptions. So yeah, here's the temple's rooms. This page will let you see what everything does. But the rooms that I'm prioritizing are rooms that give items. Initially, I was just going for any room that I did not have on tier 3 for the challenge. There's a challenge to unlock every single tier 3 room, so fully upgrade these rooms. You see I have all of these now. I just wanted to get that out of the way. So if it was a room I didn't have, the last one was the Crucible of Flame. I would always upgrade the fire one. If you guys are into challenges, I would recommend doing that. Get it out of the way. Then from that afterwards, you can focus on the good stuff. But the big priority ones for me are the ones that give good items or give pack size or whatever. So like pack size, I would try and upgrade this over one that doesn't give that. Or the corrupting altar, I think it's really cool. So I'm prioritizing that, and I'm just corrupting random stuff. I've bricked 5 tabulas in a row. I'm gonna try and do more tabulas if I get the room again. But yeah, it's not working out too hot for me. The gem room is a low priority for me. I do go for it when I can, but like if I have the choice between the gem room or like, for example, the Museum of Artifacts, I'm going to choose the Museum of Artifacts. This is my current temple. I'm going to run this tomorrow. Jake and I just stopped right when we hit the temple because we were planning on stopping early, so we can start early in the day. But so you can see this is kind of what a general temple will look like. So you get a bunch of random T2 rooms. Like this one is the Corruption Altar, but it's not actually tier 3. So when I go in this temple, I'm not even going to do this room. But early in the maps part, where we actually were still needing maps, I would do this room every single time. Just full clear every room in the temple. Because you get a ton of maps back. And it's kind of like a really big map that you didn't have to pay any alchemies or chaos or whatever to roll it. So yeah, I really like doing those. But now at this point, we're kind of we'll rush the Museum of Artifacts, get our loot from there, go to the Jewelry Forge, get our loot from there. Then we'll go to the Doriani's Institute, get our loot, and I'll double vol a gem. then we go kill the boss, and then we go back into mapping. That's kind of the way we've been doing our temples for a while now. And you can see I picked up this one just for a little more pack size while we clear through. If I see that room, I always go for it and upgrade it, unless it's like, I'm choosing between that or like one of the corruption rooms or chest full of jewelry, things like that. A little tip, item level 85 is necessary to vol quantity as an implicit on belts. So I have a level 85 unique belt that I'm using, and I'm every time we get the tier 3 sacrificial unique room, I put this belt in, and it stays as a unique belt. So if I ever get a headhunter or a Bisco's leash from this, then I'm going to put this into the double vol machine, and it has a chance to get quantity as an implicit, which would be really cool. If that happens, amazing. I'll be really hyped, but it's a shot in the dark. Just something to do for you guys who really like to go for those kinds of things. And that's the only way to get an item level 85 Headhunter in a temporary league at the moment. So next up, I want to talk a little bit about the MF gearing, like progression throughout gear throughout this. So like I talked about earlier, the initial priority was to get Goldworms and Sedemas, because these are kind of the two highest quantity items in a single slot, right? Like, sure, there are other great ones, but these were like very, very cheap too. Getting 19 Goldworms, I think, cost me 15 C when we were in Blood Aqueducts. Getting Sedemas was like a chaos or two, 16 quants. So they're so affordable, and you can get them early, which means you can like actually put in the chromes and stuff to get the right sockets on them and not feel bad about them, because you will be keeping them. So we wanted to get these early. Those were the first MF pieces we rolled with. Everything else was non-MF for quite a long time, until we were pretty close to actually hitting our shape maps. We were still not rocking MF in rings, amulets, or belt. And even in the early volcanoes and burials, we were still not using MF gear in the belts or one ring and an amulet. And I think that that's a good way to do it. Like, I feel like a big mistake a lot of people make while MFing is that they focus way too hard on getting that MF gear in, and they sacrifice their clear speed heavily for it, as well as their survivability. Dead characters do not make currency in hardcore. So, you want to slow down your quantity gear. You'll get to it eventually. I'm constantly asked what the priority is for gearing. There is no priority. You need to delete that from your mind, this concept of like, oh, this is the priority item. I need to get my Wind Ripper before I turn it out. No, that's not the case. You downgrade every single item. If I was unable to run Sedemas because I needed to res cap, I'd take them off. I would wear, some rare gloves with some damage and some life on them and res. Whatever. There is no priority. You need to gear your character with what you can afford and just constantly be making incremental upgrades, because there's nothing worse for your character than to be saving up 100 C for a Wind Ripper while you're rocking the crappiest boots and gloves and rings and everything, when you could just be getting smaller upgrades and working your way, building your way to this Wind Ripper, and getting stronger and clearing faster and getting a little more quantity and things like that. Just don't force yourself to MF. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, as far as priority, that's the way I look at it. The reason I'm using a Spine Fuse is I'm not res capped without it. And also because I'm in hardcore, my life is just abysmal without a life amulet. I know it's a little bit higher now. That's because I'm level 96, nearly 97. I now have the Headhunter. It's gone up quite a bit, but I did not want to be below like 4.1k life. Because especially in incursions, there's a lot of scary damage and every little bit of life counts. I might end up running Abystos in the future, but most likely not. I have this Shaper Amulet that I'm going to multi-mod when the Amulet Crafter guys come on. And I'll be using this amulet probably for the rest of the character even. For my Headhunter, I got Fiend cards. The reasoning behind this, there were two reasons. First was the new corruptions are super cool, and I actually think that Fiends should maybe even be more valuable than Doctors at this point. I guess you can't double corrupt a Fiend Headhunter, but they're really cool, basically. So I just wanted to get these corruptions, and also they were way cheaper. We bought these cards at like 120 to 130 chaos each, and it's an 11 card set versus like 250 chaos each for doctor cards, and it's an 8 card set. So it's actually more than twice as expensive, for doctors. And you don't get to get this cool vault implicit. Mine is actually terrible. We'll probably sell this in the future and buy an uninterrupted one for each of us to leave with. And then here's just the rest of my gear for those of you guys that are curious. TS Helmet, Dying Sun, Rigweld Squills, Wind Ripper, 6-Link Queen of the Forest. Actually took 5,300 fusings plus. We didn't count exactly, but I'm being conservative with 5,300. I was level 96.5 from wearing quantity gear the entire time and never doing a map above tier 9. And we linked it at 96.5, also with party quantity. So the amount of fusings we put into this chest is just absurd, but we finally got it done. I'm really happy with that. And the creme de la creme, for those of you that stuck around to this point in the video, my Ventors are insane. This one's not that good, but I want to show you the next one last. Oh, this Ventors, what is this? Oh, mwah, mwah. Oh, it's the most beautiful Ventors I've ever seen. It actually is the best Ventors I've ever seen. This Ventors is insane. I paid 600 chaos for it today. We meant to buy it on the second day. We were close to having enough money. It was 500 chaos at that point, but the guy took it down and used it for a while. And he messaged me because one of his friends actually watches my stream and saw that I wanted to buy it. So he said, hey, I know you want the Spentors. I'm no longer MFing. If you want it, I'm thinking somewhere between 600 to 700 chaos for it. And so we agreed on 600 because my offer was going to be 500, meet in the middle. I'm really happy with it. He's really happy with the 600 chaos. Looking at this thing is just, I'm going to need to take about 10 minutes after I finish recording this video. But yeah, jewel-wise, I got this 4-prop jewel. It was originally 3-prop without the lightning damage. Yeah, and I slammed the lightning damage, really happy with that. I've also fail slammed a few jewels. I'm currently running Inspired Learnings, 2 of them, and Lionized Fall. But I think I'm going to drop Lionized Fall. I need to path up building it a bit, but I think I can drop this, pick up the jewel socket here, put in some Abyss jewels, and then also I can max out Celerity, because once I put in the Shaper Amulet, I can drop this Int node and still have my Herald of Ice be level 20. So that's kind of the plan right now. You can kind of see my tree here. This is the same tree I've been running pretty much the entire league. Various slight changes like having these life nodes and these life nodes at some points, cutting them at other points, taking this leech before I had this, before I had this one. I had this leech initially with the Inspired before I had this. You know, we've been through a lot of different phases, I guess, this league. And then here's a little bit of gameplay of how we run the temples now. I actually intended to do this as something in the background while I was doing the video, but then I realized there's a lot of things to show throughout the video. But I'll just talk about this briefly. I imagine most people will not be watching the video at this point, but you can just kind of see how Jake and I are playing. So I have my own Valdrace. You're just notice I almost never use it because he has 100% Valdrace uptime with the setup he's using right now. Well, it's not 100%, but it's very close to it. We're utilizing the new Temple Belt. It's skill effect duration times 3, the new corruption. So he has like 45 skill effect duration on a belt. He's using the new Soul Catcher Flask for reduced soul cost and reduced cooldown. So his Vol Haste is 10.6 seconds. And the cooldown is like 5 seconds or something. So it's like insane uptime, pretty much guaranteed to be up unless he's like looting or whatever, things like that. But this is just kind of how we go through the temples, nothing too crazy. You know, you'll see this a lot if you guys watch my stream at all, those of you that do. We run every single temple that we get. Oh, actually this is perfect. Oh shoot, let me pause this real quick. I'll show you the rooms in this temple. Okay, so here's the rooms in this temple. Another way you can see the priorities we're working on. So Museum of Artifacts, again, always prioritizing this one. This can drop league-specific uniques, so it's crazy. You really want this room. I go for Explosives room if there's no path to the boss at the point where I'm given the choice to the Explosives room, because then I'm like, just a slightly higher chance to hit that explosives room. Uh, Surveyor's Study, this is the map room. I always prioritize that when I can, even though maps don't seem to sell. There's the gem room. Because we didn't hit level 3 on this, I don't even bother going to it. Jeweler's Workshop, we checked that out initially, always trying to hit that and get it to level 3. And then we got a level 3 breach room and a boss. So I'm going to skip through here a little bit, but yeah, so you can just kind of see how the clear goes, right? We're just kind of prioritizing getting to these loot rooms, get out really fast. Spend as little time in the temple as possible because the temple is less loot than running like shape maps. Like we're doing burials and volcanoes, but you could do gorges or strands or whatever map it is that you like. If you're MFing, you're gonna make money. Is kind of how it works. Do the breaches, all that good stuff, and I'll skip to the boss fight. You guys can see how that goes. It's actually really easy for us now. We're pretty powerful. I guess a little bit, just something to touch on. If you're struggling with an MF character and you're low level still, you probably just need gem levels. It makes a huge difference. We noticed that this lead. So you can see the boss goes down real quick. He EEs it to fire with his freeze pulse. It goes down into this phase. We just, my TS, you can see how many millions of projectiles I'm shooting out here. The ads don't even have a chance. Also, Rain of Arrows was actually surprisingly good for this room, because the arrows overlap a lot on the boss, and in this part, like, I was spec'd into King of the Hill for the knockback, and that, like, carried us when we did not have the DPS to, like, keep the ads off of the boss. Boss goes down, easy peasy, picked up some sweet loot. We've only gotten 2 good items from the boss so far. We've had a couple, like, decent ones, but this is the best one so far. These boots were insane. I sold them for 150 chaos. I think I probably could have gotten more because I could have annulled a suffix potentially and then like metacrafted the suffix, but these prefixes are like pretty close to perfect. It divined to like, I think 111 life or something like that, close to that. 30 MS. The dodge and the MS are hybrid together from the temple. It's a new mod. Pretty good res. The life regen sucks, but whatever. These are by far the best item we found in the temple. We also found a crazy bow, but we needed to annul. It had like prefix fire damage. It was like divine to 200 and 209 max IPD potential in the bow, and if we annulled the fire damage, it could have gone up to like a 450 DPS bow or PDPS bow, something like that, 430 maybe. I mean, it wouldn't have been insane, but it would have been pretty cool to have, I guess. Now we're pretty much geared up. At this point, we're just stacking money now. So the next few days are going to be basically just us MFing, trying to get as much money as possible. We're hoping to push 100 in our MF maps so that we leave with as much currency between the two of us as possible. Yeah, so that pretty much summarizes my league start. I apologize for being MIA on YouTube, everyone. I appreciate every one of you guys who watched this long. I'm sorry for the long video, but there's a lot to catch up on. I'm not going to be doing daily updates or anything. Maybe like every week I might do an update. Or if there's relevant things to talk about, like I'm going to do the Atlas video like I talked about, and I have 1 or 2 other videos that I've been thinking about, but I don't want to spoil those as I haven't talked about them yet. But those may be a week away. I need to, do my streaming stuff, and I'll try and slip in the time to get them going. But hopefully you guys enjoy this video and like the fact that I'm kind of trying to keep you up to date on what's going on. As always, I'm always streaming on Twitch every single day during the leagues. I'm not playing any days off or anything, so pretty much for this entire Incursion League, I should be streaming every single day. Be sure to come check me out, guys. Hopefully you don't hate me for being away for so long. And to those of you who made it this far in the video, thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and have a great day or night wherever you are in the world.